Grady Powell, host of Forged in Fire.
Kyle Mann.
I'm J. Warner Wallace.
Kira Davis.
It's Ben Adams.
Hey, this is Dave Baker.
Carrie Pomeroli.
This is Mike Reiner.
This is Ethan Nicole.
This is Leanne Morgan.
It's Graham Parker, the 5th GP, and this is why you should never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate program. I am Lucas Pinkard. I will be the Reverend as always, and with me is a man who can't figure out whether or not he wants to bring the espresso machine that he plugged in and is steaming behind us onto the table for risk of burning himself. It's
Basically a pastor, Dan Gibson.
Big Dan Gibson, the Reprobate.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. Hey, how's Bob? Is he like still really upset and offended because I wanted you to restart your blog?
I haven't talked to Bob.
Well, good.
This is my neighbor.
We don't need to reset the story. If you want to hear the story, listen to
listen
our
to
100th episode celebration.
There was a terrible mishap that happened, and I haven't talked to Bob. I don't know. I'm sure he's fine.
No, there was a terrible mishap that happened? Or are you talking about like what?
I'm talking about the event.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
The justdropitlucas.com.
Yeah. Today on the show, we have Sam the Hutt, Sam Jesse from the Tatooine Sons, to talk all things Lord of the Rings, The Ring of Power, or The Rings of Power, new series that is coming up. We talk a little bit about Tolkien's intention, a little bit about his worldview and how this can fit in to the existing lore, as well as how it is that they can create a villain that is more evil than Sauron, and whether or not Sauron deserves.
It's pretty funny because there already is a villain more evil than Sauron,
Yeah.
which is Morgoth.
Well, and whether or not Sauron deserves a sympathetic villain arc.
That's a good question.
Within this story. Nate and Sam have been great on the show. David's been okay, but Sam today really just steals the spotlight. Thanks again to all the guys from the Tatooine Sons for always being cool and coming on the program. And now, without any further ado,
David Jesse is the semi-precious stone in the crown of podcasters.
Yep, he's the dad that we aspire to be.
Yeah, and his sons are two shining gems.
So now, without any further ado,
I said that. Let's check out the show.
hey, on our Sweet Clean Airwaves Today Expo is, you know what?
Hi, Dad.
If I could redo this thing I'm talking about, this life that I'm living, this is the young man I think I would aspire to be.
I think so, too.
He is a brilliant podcaster, dashingly good looking, and as he has mentioned on his own podcast, the wonderful and top-rated Tatooine Sons, he's dating a young lady named Savannah.
Yeah, he's got an incredible,
You know what?
smart and strong young lady.
Here's the problem with all of this. Is that Sam Jesse uses more adjectives to describe his wife than his girlfriend than I do to describe my wife.
Breaking
There you go.
news.
Yeah, prophecy. It's the wonderful, talented, the very handsome Sam Jesse. What's going on, Sam?
Not much. How are y'all?
We're fantastic.
Samuel
Thanks
the
for having me
Hutt.
on.
Samuel the Hutt. Yes, this is correct. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, Sam, do you like coffee?
Do I like coffee?
Yeah.
No. It's got to be mixed with so much other things that it's no longer recognizable as coffee by the time I'm done with it.
You like a little coffee with your sugar. You're one of those kind of guys.
Yeah. I can stand a mocha, some hot chocolate and coffee, but that's about as far as it goes.
Gotcha. Do you like money?
I love money.
Yeah, me too.
Well, not too much though. Just the right amount of love of money, not like the evil amount of love.
Right.
But
It can get out of
I do
hand
appreciate
just
it.
like your love of coffee.
Yeah, well,
Coffee can get out of hand,
bet
too.
on the Denver Broncos this year.
Yeah, we're gleaning a little bit from their conversations, and apparently we're stacked this year. So,
well, yeah, your dad seems to think so.
Hopefully we have some good games. I don't know.
We'll see what happens. So we had you on the show tonight for a few reasons. One is because of the Jesse clan. You're the only one that has not had your own featured episode, right?
It's a mistake we made.
Yeah, Nate came on and did some Live at 5 stuff with us. It was just the two of us and him. We've had your dad on twice as a solo artist, the artist formerly known as David Jesse. And then we were like, you know what? We got to find a reason to bring Sam on. And we found one in this new Lord of the Rings series. So you guys have talked about this a little bit on your podcast. We're huge Lord of the Rings fans. read the books at least once each. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I did 5 or 6 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and on top of that, like I host a game every Monday night where we play the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle Earth role playing game.
Oh
and
yeah.
we've done that for gosh, a really long time. We just got the expansion. There's a new expansion coming out for that in January, so we do that. I've got a group that we play every Monday night. So we're huge fans of all of it. And as we're trying to figure out, all right, how do we start talking about the show? We're listening to the Tatooine Sons, and then we hear Sam's Open, which is just a bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff thrown together. We're like, all right, we got to bring the guy on.
Yeah.
So, real quick, right? We just kind of want like what your Lord of the Rings experience has been like before we dive heavy into what you think of the Rings of Power and where that's going to go. And then we just trail off into whatever other nonsense we decide to talk about this evening.
All right. Well, I'm not as well versed as you guys are because you've said you read the books, and I have not gotten to that point yet.
It's because the books don't have any math in them.
What's that?
So the books don't have any math in them, so you're not interested.
No, I just don't have the time to read such a long book, and I've heard he tends to go on tangents. Tolkien.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tom Bombadil.
I want
and all that, but
follow up on that.
But
it may be,
no, I mean,
I want to let you finish.
Dad exposed us to the movies at a real early age, and I loved them, and they've always just stuck with me. At first, because I mean they were cool, you had the cool fight scenes and all that. But
yeah, for sure.
As I've gotten older, I've just grown to really appreciate the story behind it. I mean, I think it's one of the greatest stories of our time, and you can definitely see the Christian influences in it. Not as much as something say like Narnia or whatever, but just the themes of like hope and perseverance and good over evil have always stuck with me. So I've watched the movies plenty of times. We watched The Hobbit when it came out. After the Hobbit movies came out, I decided to I read the Hobbit book. That's the only Lord of the Rings book that I've read so far. I played a little bit of I finished Shadow of
Shadow of
Mordor.
War?
I'm working on
Okay.
Shadow of War.
Yeah, great
I
games.
love both of those.
Yeah,
They're
I
awesome.
need to finish Shadow of War, but love them so far. But just the whole story of Lord of the Rings, I've always just absolutely loved it. So
You know what one of my favorite parts about Shadow of War, which is
No.
the sequel to Shadow of Mordor, the Lord of the Rings game,
right.
is the voice actors that they have is amazing. Like Kumail Nanjiani has
really?
has at least a couple of characters, and he just has like off the wall dialogue.
Oh wow.
It's not expected. It's very funny. It's kind of breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
I see you there standing looking at the TV, that kind of thing. It's
Right.
it's not that extreme, but it was I really enjoyed the
Yeah, the games are absolutely phenomenal. And so your I guess real introduction into it was only in the, as you put it, the LOTRCU. I believe you've now coined the world's worst acronym.
not worse than EBITDA.
Okay, what is
I just
EBITDA?
looked this up actually.
What is EBITDA?
It's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization.
Why would you look that
Yeah,
up?
that's pretty
It's a
bad.
financial term. I did, and then you went right into it's the
Yeah,
world's
okay.
worst. I went,
So
I've
you've
got
come
a
up with the
better one.
world's second worst acronym.
Next to EBITDA.
The LOTRCU, which is the Lord of the Rings Cinematic Universe for the uninitiated. Right, so in the LOTRCU, that was kind of your introduction into everything. You've played some of the games. So I think that there is a likelihood that for lack of a better way to put it, that your headcanon is going to be pretty different than a lot of the people that are going to go in watching Lord of the Rings.
I mean, I know a little bit of the timeline that we're exploring. I've listened to some short videos, just kind of that are like summaries of different themes and characters and explanations of the Silmarillion in that timeline. But I haven't read it, so I do think I have less going into it, but enough to where I think I can have my own opinions. Like we were. on the podcast we were talking about Sauron and if he was going to show up and what he looks like and all of that.
Do you think he's that blonde guy from the trailer?
What's that?
Do you think he's that blonde guy from the trailer?
I think the Nathan and Dad were saying that was confirmed on the panel, but I haven't seen it anywhere else other than that and a few articles. So it could be, and if that's the case, that's where like my little bit of headcanon comes in, and I'm like, that's not exactly what I was expecting, because I was thinking back to the games, which granted aren't even canon in like the books or the movies. They're kind of their own weird story. But
so
in that,
just a quick Google of is the blonde guy Sauron. The first thing that comes up is Eminem playing Sauron? Lord of the Rings of Power. So I will say,
look just like
not confirmed. Not confirmed yet.
Okay.
Walter Matthau.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's his real name?
But
Marshall Mathers.
Yeah, Marshall Mathers. Marshall
It's
Mathers.
not
Yeah.
Walter Matthau.
okay.
Yep.
All right. So it's still up in the air, but I was saying on the podcast, that's not exactly what I was expecting, because in the Shadow of War and Mordor games, it shows Sauron coming to Celebrimbor to forge the rings, and he's kind of this nice looking elf guy.
He was an
not
elf.
not Eminem, so it's not exactly what I had in mind. I mean,
This is before he had really good spaghetti.
Yeah, well, no, have you seen the meme? There's a meme
Yes.
that's like, it's him, and it's like the first few lines of that song, like rewritten as an elf. I'll search for it.
In Christian Nerds Unite and get it to me.
Yeah, it's probably seeing you.
Yeah, that I've seen that meme float around a few times. It's pretty good.
So Sauron can take multiple forms, so it's not like, like I've seen some negativity around, oh, he's not blonde. Yeah, he can change form. There's
Right.
a lot he can do. But it does seem like the person in the trailer is villainous, at least.
Yeah, Sauron's totally a Skrull.
Scroll.
The shapeshifters from Secret Invasion.
Do we see the merger of LOTRCU and MCU?
Maybe.
LOTR-MCU?
I like it. Yeah, I think we're onto something.
Let's get DC in there. They need some help.
Oh boy, do they ever need some help. But that's not
Let's
our
just put
focus.
the whole alphabet in there and then just put CU at the end just to be safe.
Yeah, they're flash stars.
I think we already have a group of people that's trying to take the alphabet right now, so we'll let them have
That's
it.
a good point, actually.
What's the guy that plays Flash? What's his name? In the
Ezra Miller?
Ezra, yeah.
No, not Ezra Miller.
no.
We need the other guy. What's it? Gus Gusterson?
Grant Gustin.
Grant Gustin.
And what do you want to do? 'Cause
Yeah,
I
I'd rather
wasn't
have
saying-
him as the Flash.
Oh,
Grant Gustin. Yeah, because
no,
he's from the CW. I know you're trying to make a point, but you're doing a bad job.
You won't let me. I think
Sam, it's great to have you on the show.
I think LOTR-MCU
Thanks.
could have
I'm
Ezra
loving it.
Miller double cast as Flash and Sauron, because he's been acting like it lately. What do you think?
I can see it. So when you look at him, you already have this image of evil in your mind.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even need to act. It's just like
He's-
already done. The work's done for him.
He's kind of
Yeah.
been acting like a big old jerk in Hawaii.
He has been.
yeah.
This is pop
It's
culture.
so weird.
This is-
And I'm like disappointed about it because I thought he was actually a great Flash.
I know, I thought so,
in
too.
the Snyder Cut.
I loved watching him move slowly away from Superman in slow motion.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
regardless,
next question.
So Sauron
I've got the
is
next
a
question.
shapeshifter. He's somebody who can take on a few different forms, right? And so this is, from what I understand, the Rings of Power is going to span like 5 different ages. Like each season may focus on a different age, or that there's going to be different parts of the timeline that they're focusing on.
Look, we're old. We
And
need you
that
to
type
tell
of
us
thing.
what's happening.
Well, I feel like y'all are probably more
We're not.
qualified for that. But I did do a little research on the timeline of it for the podcast, and it spans like a few thousand, thousands of
an
years
age,
of
Yeah.
of story. So yeah, I think that like there's multiple major events that just based on what we know is going to show up in the series and what we've seen in the trailer so far, it would already put this show at like at least 3,000 years in length or something like that, like between different events. So we'll probably have some flashback sequences and prologues, kind of like in the extended cut of Fellowship of the Ring and things like that. But Nathan was saying that they are planning on this being like a 50-hour journey between all the seasons, spanning multiple eras. and stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to explore a large gap of time.
How do you think that the Q4 earnings call in 2022 is going to look for Amazon?
Are you still looking at your crazy acronym that you just made up?
Yeah, I did an EBITDA. That's a real thing.
Yeah, okay, sure it is.
You know, I am a little nervous just based on some of the immediate fan reaction to it. A lot of people are upset at some of the choices they've made, and
It's the same
I
with
can
every
understand
movie
where they're
that
coming
comes out.
from.
Like Batman.
What's that?
Every new Batman movie that gets announced, everyone loses their minds, including me. I get viscerally upset when I hear a new movie's coming out that I like, and then eventually I calm down and I go, "That was a pretty good movie." But you have to go through that journey.
I'm hoping that's sort of the case with this new show, in that the fans just kind of calm down for a bit and like actually give it a chance instead of just going into it closed-minded or not even watching it and just saying it's the worst thing they've seen since, I don't know, Last Jedi. I'm not dogging on The Last Jedi. I love The Last Jedi. I'm just using it as an excuse or as an example. But I hate that fans are already judging it so harshly before anything comes out, just based on the very little we've seen from the couple trailers and stuff. So I think it's unfair, and I hope that it doesn't hurt the show so much to where we don't get to see the full story and Amazon isn't able to continue it, because this show is expensive. I think it's like one of, if not the most expensive TV show ever produced.
That's what I had heard, and you're talking like over $400 million of budget that has been allocated for this particular show. You know, we'd kind of touched on the fact that you're not coming into things with, you know, for instance, the same kind of headcanon that somebody who has read the books or played a lot of the games. So you don't quite have to hit that same reset button that a lot of people did, you know, that were Star Wars fans maybe back in 2014, 2015, when Disney said, hey, all this is Legends, none of it's canon anymore. And you're like, oh my gosh, you know, the last 25 years of Star Wars is gone. So when you're looking at some of the things that have to do with the controversy involved in the show, biggest one that I can think of is that the women don't have beards, right? Okay, that got a pretty significant eye roll. So
yeah,
like for me, like we play the Journeys in Middle Earth role-playing game every Monday night. We've got a group of people that do it. There is a female dwarf character named Dis. She's the dwarf queen. She has a beautifully braided beard, and I've seen, you know, like 10 different versions of people that have painted them. Like, I don't go and paint the minis, but they've painted the minis in a bunch of different ways. Do you think that those types of, for the casual Lord of the Rings fan, not for the sort of insane people that are like, no, it has to be exactly like I imagine it, for the casual Lord of the Rings things, I mean, we married them. So the two insane people we found that we really liked, we married.
We both get one.
Yeah,
we'll accept one.
We each get one. So, you know, do you think for the casual Lord of the Rings fan that this is going to be a show that they can enjoy, or do you think that there are going to be enough of those things? Because like Gimli mentions it in the movie, the dwarf women have beards, and now we're not going to see that. Do you think that they're going to be things that they can kind of accept, or are they going to be things that you think may cause at least a little bit of discontinuity?
As for the whole beard thing, you know, I've already kind of, in my own mind, retconned it, at least to sort of make it make sense, in that I don't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure the scene in the movie where Gimli's talking about that, he's about halfway drunk out of his mind. So he could be like embellishing a little bit. But also we have to remember that this series is taking place like thousands of years before we get to the events of Lord of the Rings. Maybe I don't know, fashion changes happened in the dwarf community, and it was suddenly cool for dwarf women to like start growing beards or something. I don't know, but there's this large chunk of time where we don't have.
That was one of the things that happened whenever they had the fight with the elves, is that they stopped making razor blades for women.
Maybe.
Yeah. They like there was scrap drives, you know, and they had to turn in all their razors.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
or the pollution runoff from the elves' plants caused the women to start growing beards.
Maybe so.
There's testosterone in there.
Yeah,
in their water supply.
Yeah.
See, I mean, there are explanations, possible explanations.
I love this idea.
I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you think that there will be like things like that for the casual fan, like might at least cause questions or you know, at the very least,
I mean, look at this.
So like when you take something and Like you're looking
Free
at
cash flow reconciliation
Oh
for
my
Amazon's
gosh.
down month over month,
So,
quarter over quarter.
do you think those are the kind of things that when, the casual fan sees them, like, all right, well, the dwarves are supposed to have beards. Maybe it's something that you can reconcile in this spot. But how many of those things do you think will add up before somebody goes, you know what? It's almost like they're starting over.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I do. It is a concern, and it is a concern for myself. I'm trying to keep a very open mind with it, and I haven't
Well, stop
seen
that.
enough.
Have a rancid internet opinion. Don't keep an
Oh,
open
sorry.
mind.
Yeah, you think I've
that's
been
not
a
good
fan
for
long enough,
content.
I think I would have figured that out. But I definitely do have that concern that they're going to just end up taking way too much liberty with it. I haven't seen enough in the trailers and stuff that we've gotten so far to where I'm really all that worried about it. Granted, there are a couple things like the dwarf women don't have beards. Okay. Sauron may or may not
We
be
want our
Eminem.
women with
I don't
beards.
know.
Yeah. Sauron may or may not be in it. Yeah.
Right. So there are little
Slim
things that I'm
Sauron.
like, okay, but the main story and the main characters and stuff haven't thrown me for enough of a loop to where I'm like, okay, maybe we need to actually be worried about this show. Obviously, we won't know one way or another until we start watching it and we can start seeing the decisions they make. But I think the main thing that people are going to be worried about is the story and the events and how things happen and the characters. And sure, they put in some original characters, which I don't think there's a problem with that. As long as for the main story, they keep the correct characters performing the correct actions, if that makes any sense. You know, I know there's a lot of huge battles that happen. I think I was in a little bit of research I did. There's the War of Wrath, which is what I think the series starts off with.
Right.
There's like a giant dragon that's destroyed. Well, I hope A, they have the dragon because that would be awesome. But B,
Caligon.
like
Caligon, I think is his name, the big dragon.
yeah, something like that, some great black dragon, something like that, and like
Caligon, pretty sure.
The half elf. I don't remember who it is. I think it's Elrond's dad.
Yep.
If I'm remembering
He flies
correctly.
a ship.
Slays the dragon. So as long as they keep that the main big points of that in place, along with other storylines like Celebrimbor better be the one who forges the rings and things like that.
Oh, did you hear that? He
I think
better
we'll be
be.
fine.
Nathan has mentioned a few things, and Sam decided he's going to take those things and he's going to put on notice Amazon. He just said it. You heard it here first.
Amazon, and we know
Amazon,
we know that you're like,
Celebrimbor better be
look, if you're
the one that does it.
If you're Jeff Bezos, if you're spending almost $1 billion over 5 seasons, just get it right. Have Celebrimbor. Have a.
I mean, and that is partly the headcanon in my head because I know Celebrimbor does that in the story, right?
Right.
For a
Sauron
casual
tricks
fan
him
who
with
knows
his-
nothing of the Silmarillion, that probably wouldn't be much of a problem. I just happen to be a little bit more initiated than, like my dad and brother.
Right.
But I think if they stay true enough to the main story and keep it what it is, I think I don't think really fans have much to be concerned about. Yeah.
I do like that you tend to be a little level-headed on these
Yeah,
things.
me too.
I really appreciate that. But I want to know, what do you think you're going to hate the most about Lord of the Rings, The Ring of Power?
What am I going to hate the most?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
I haven't spent enough time thinking about that because I guess I just haven't trained myself enough to get in that mindset.
If Rian Johnson,
Rian.
if Ryan Johnson wanted to direct an episode,
Yeah, how would he ruin Lord of the...
You stop that right now. I mean, I'm trying to think of something that
He would have Isildur just give up.
would he put porgs in that too?
Yeah.
I mean,
Will
I'm
Turbis
trying to
make
think
an
about something
appearance?
that would really upset me, and I guess
Turbis
that would
just
just be
digs out of Gimli's beard. Like, and then just goes back. It's done. Sorry.
Oh man. I mean,
Huge
I
mistake.
will be worried if they try to put the original characters too much front and center.
Okay.
That will frustrate me because I don't mind them having storylines or parallel running storylines with original characters. That's fine, but the main story that they're trying to tell of this timeline should be done with the characters that are associated with it from published works.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind them following Galadriel for a lot of it, even though I don't think she's the main character. I think it's one of the Harfoots, just because the Harfoots are kind of the everyman in this story, much like how we followed the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings. They were something we could relate to better. The same thing they're doing with Harfoots. So I'm kind of already like shooting my own like concerns in the foot with that. But I mean, as long as the main events of the story are with the original characters and they don't try and like put the other characters too much front and center, I think I'll be fine. But if they decide to just go way off the rails with stuff and all these original characters, then I'm gonna start to be concerned, because part of what's exciting about Lord of the Rings is some of these familiar faces that we're seeing with Galadriel and Elrond and things like that. And if they stray too far away with it, then I think that's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, I agree, right? And that's always the concern that we have with
Elrond
anything.
and Galadriel have to be in it, or have to be in the world because they've existed, but it doesn't have to focus on them.
Right, but they do need to Sam's point, they need to be the ones that are doing the things that they're supposed to do. Yeah. Right? You ruin the story. Like if we were going to remake...
We know that Elrond fights against Morgoth. And the forces of evil.
But like that...
If he switches sides suddenly, we won't be like, hey, that's not what we were told.
Yeah, or...
That's not a great example, but you know...
Or if a character that they created just for the show... Yeah. Right, they realize that the fans are liking him, or the writers and the director have really fallen in love with that character. If he is now doing something that Elrond is supposed to have done, right, then that kind of
stolen valor.
Yeah, it kind of destroys what you're working up towards. However, I do think that there'll be a lot of people that aren't gonna notice many of those things, but I think the larger LOTR fan base is going to be that way. One of the things I think has been interesting about the way that they've promoted this series, and really the way that the sort of lore around Tolkien and the Inklings, and I know you guys have talked about this on your podcast before, is that, you know, there are Tolkien scholars. That that's an actual thing that you can be, right? Because he created an entire language. There's this, and you know, all of this stuff, and so there are Tolkien scholars, and there are also Inkling scholars that go and have done a ton of work on Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and the other guys that were involved in the Inkling group, right? The way that a lot of the cultural shift around Tolkien has been used lately is a lot of like cultural affirmation, right? That, you know, this is a story that so many people identified with. We had a guy on our show, the obscure Lord of the Rings fact guy, Don Marshall. And Don Marshall's got some really interesting stuff, but a lot of the community that he's at, they're a group of individuals that will greet you with their names and their pronouns. Let's put it that way, right? And so one of the things that's being kind of pushed into this Lord of the Rings narrative is now like all of the stuff that's happening with inclusivity and stuff like that. I know you guys don't get political. I'm not going to ask you to necessarily walk in that. Where do you think, from a worldview perspective, because you guys do talk a lot about that on your show, where do you think, from a worldview perspective, that the new Lord of the Rings series has the opportunity to honor the subject matter that it came from, and where are you worried that it might deviate?
Qatar. From a worldview perspective.
I get where you're coming from.
Thank you.
I don't think it's any surprise when you look at the story of the Lord of the Rings itself. There's not many female characters, and certainly no female leads. Same with The Hobbit. They even put in, I forget her name, the she-elf in that to have a female character.
Yeah.
And they are doing certain things with this series, casting certain actors and creating certain characters, like the first African-American elf that we're seeing in this, and things like that. And
which I think those kind of things I think are great.
Right, I agree. I absolutely think that those are great things to do, because inclusivity is important. Being able to see yourself in a story is important. And frankly, I think the new characters look great, and I'm honestly excited to see where they go with it. And I think that they also just cast the actors for the fact that they're great actors and they're going to portray their role the best way they can. But as for other things that are of concern, I think recently the writer or director, one of the head people behind this, came out and said that modern politics will not influence this show. And that could be just them covering their butt or, whatever. That could have no weight behind it whatsoever. But I do believe that they're going to keep this show true to Tolkien's worldview.
Okay.
In that they're not going to insert things that Tolkien would be against. Like, I remember when this show was first announced that everybody, and ourselves included, were worried they were going to go Game of Thrones route and include unnecessary sexual content in it just for the sake of having it in there.
Yeah, and that was something that was, from our understanding, that was kind of put out in the original sort of test groups where they, if you're investing, this much money into a thing, you get these test groups together. And so they were going to these LOTRCU groups. And, this is a huge fandom that's scattered throughout the LOTRCU. It's kind of flowing a little bit better every time I say it.
That's what it is.
Yeah, but they were getting together these study groups of people, and they were like, hey, so would you watch a Lord of the Rings series that had nudity in it? Would you watch it if it had X, Y, and Z? And so there were a lot of those things that they realized didn't test well. But the reason those rumors got started is because, I say the rumors got started, the reason those conversations got started is because those were the things that they were trying to test in that. And I am kind of glad they didn't go that route. When we look at like Tolkien's overall view on these things, right? He's got a famous lecture called Fairy Stories. And in his lecture about fairy stories, he talks about how he thinks, and he famously hated the Chronicles of Narnia because he thought it was too derivative. Like, it's obvious that Aslan is Jesus, like there, and and all of these things. He thought it was way too derivative. He told Lewis that he hated it, and obviously C.S. Lewis didn't care enough to change the story. All of that said, by the end of his life, Tolkien recognized, like, hey, you know what? There was not one particular Christ figure that was, thematic in the story of the Lord of the Rings, but Gandalf had some of that in him. I definitely gave some of those characteristics and attributes to Aragorn, and I gave some of those things also to, some of the attributes of like the disciples or Jonathan from the Old Testament, like those kind of things.
Not Elrond, because he was ready to quit.
Yeah, but he gave those kind of things to Gimli and to Legolas. Yeah. He attributed a lot of the things about the good parts of human nature and the perseverance of guys like Paul and the other disciples into the hobbits and those types of things. So I'm curious, like, when we looking at that they all had those kind of things. There's not a clear Christian allegory that walks through it, yet there is a very clear undertone of like Christian message, fighting for good, and those kind of things. When they say that they're not going to push any type of current cultural agenda throughout the story, that's great. And like you said, could be awesome, could be something that they're just saying, right? Part of what we're doing is like part of what we're doing. Part of what they're doing is they've got to have a very clear line of good and evil. And if you look at the Silmarillion, the dragon is the worst evil that's ever been, and then Morgoth is the next worst evil, and Sauron is at best like the fifth worst evil.
He's like a little kid.
Like, in comparison, he's not supposed to be evil at all. What do you think has to be done in this series in order for them to let you know, or in order to communicate that these guys are the worst kind of evil that has ever existed?
Without going into Game of Thrones territory.
Yeah, without getting into that kind of like super dark,
visceral, bloody.
Yeah, territory. Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to how they did so in the Lord of the Rings movies. And obviously they had, there was the evil and them like killing people. They never really went like outright bloody and stuff. But I think part of, at least in my mind, what really drives home the fact that they are so evil, and I think this just stuck with me because I was so young when I first watched this, is the visuals of them. You look at Sauron and the orcs and that whole army, even the architecture, everything about it just screams evil, right? It's just evil. And that almost in and of itself is enough to start driving home the point in my mind. And then you get into the actions of what they did and them corrupting people and just the manipulation behind the scenes with like Worm Tongue and stuff and Saruman and things like that. And then just like ransacking villages and just taking over Middle Earth. And that starts to kind of drive home the point that, oh, okay, these guys are bad. We really don't want them in charge. But I think a good way to start is to just show us the evil. And they kind of did that a little bit in the trailer with like that, the latest trailer with that one scene of some orc like climbing through like the floor or something. And it's kind of like Jaws-esque, you know, you only see bits and pieces and the scary bits and all that. And I think that's a good start. And it's a good neutral way to sort of drive home the point that these guys are not the good guys. And you don't have to bring in any sort of politics with it. It's just they look evil because they're evil in this case. And it's not anything to do with anything we can associate with. It's just they're evil. Like you could just plainly see as people, we could just see that and be like, yeah, I wouldn't want that guy in my house, you know?
One of the big concerns that people have had online is that they are going to provide an opportunity for a redemption arc to Sauron. Which he does not.
I don't think so. He doesn't get it.
Okay, which he doesn't
how?
have or he doesn't deserve.
Yeah.
Right, but that
And
is
also he doesn't receive. So
right.
Yeah.
But there is this is just one of the things that's being discussed. Are they going to provide a redemption arc to Sauron in such a way that like we identify with him and we're all just like, you know what? I would, if X, Y, and Z would have happened to me, I would have become a bad guy too. If you know, if Padme dies and so do both of my kids, right?
Yeah,
right. That you humanize the villain in such a way that happens.
I think he's onto something. I think Sam's onto something with the. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but you can tell.
Yeah, he's way smarter than we are.
You can tell the villains in Tolkien by the way they look and what they do.
So are you saying Eminem's a bad guy?
We don't know. Yeah, he looks like it. But
here we go.
But the way that they look, like you said, the orcs are they are a corruption of nature.
Yeah.
From what, you know, I know there's some theories that they came from elves, and that's kind of been that's in argument in flux in discussion.
Yes.
It's still in flummox.
It's ad nauseum.
Yeah. But the way they look is very evil, and then what they do is evil. So we'll see if the question is, are we going to see that in the Amazon show?
Yeah, and I hadn't heard what you mentioned, Lucas, with them providing a way for us to relate to Sauron in this series, and that's interesting. And I would not appreciate them doing that because he's supposed to be evil in every way. He's
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just straight up evil. If you compare him to something like Morgoth, though, you realize, oh, he's actually not that bad. But he's still the embodiment of evil on Middle Earth at this point in the story, right? We shouldn't get a chance to be like, okay, well, maybe he's just misunderstood, you know?
Yeah.
Or it's like Thanos, you know, he just wants to, you know, fix overpopulation or something like that. You know, he just needs to be evil for evil's sake. And that would be something I would be concerned with because that could be, I've noticed a theme in recent years with stories of redemption arcs for the villains. And while they definitely have their place and they can be hugely impactful, like with Ben Solo and obviously Darth Vader and things like that, sometimes villains just need to be villains. And we need to realize, like, I think it's an important lesson for people to learn, especially, you know, kids and stuff and the newer generation, to learn that yes, we should be willing to give a second chance to anyone, and anyone should be willing to change. But we also have to realize that there are just some people who do not want to change and are just the way they are, and that we have to accept that. And they need to drive home that point with Sauron. Now, I'm not saying they can't have Sauron act like he's being good or whatever, because that's what he does when he manipulates Celebrimbor and all that. Sure. And I can't remember, but I think he's captured at one point on Numenor, and he acts like, I'm a changed man, I'm good now, and then he goes and he corrupts everyone, and it's not a good time. Yeah. And that's when like Numenor was sunk and all that. But I think that they can do that fine, but overall that should be ultimately done to drive home the point that he's evil, and he's going to be evil from the beginning to the end when we see him in Lord of the Rings. So that is a concerning point that you bring out, that people are worried about that. But I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with it because we don't even know if we're going to see him yet because we're not sure if the rapper is Sauron. But.
Yeah, we don't know if Morgoth is going to be in it because if so, I can see Sauron starting out less evil, but he's got to pretty quickly go. Yeah, this is the path I'm going down, and he goes down it.
Yeah, you don't.
We know the history. It's just how quickly they're going to get to it.
Right. You don't want at any point in time. You don't want Palpatine to become the sympathetic figure in the story.
Yeah.
And that's the danger with any of these prequels is that like.
But he's just trying to.
But well, here's the thing.
Get the Republic.
Yeah, right. So, but here's the thing: is when you start doing that and you start creating the backstories for these characters, especially within a modern context, when we're trying to be sympathetic even to the villains, that like we're trying to really dig in and find out what their motivation is, then all of the stuff, like all of the stuff that we actually know about them, the original movies and all that.
Sauron can kiss my butt.
They lose their teeth, right?
He's not sympathetic
because he wouldn't be.
Is that acceptable to say on a?
Yeah, that's fine. He doesn't quite have that kind of demeanor. One of the things that I think, and this is an unpopular opinion, right? But one of the things
you think the Last Jedi was good.
No, that is a very popular opinion on this podcast currently. 2/3 of us know that The Last Jedi was good, and 1/3 of us has seen it one time and hit the snooze button around the time Chewie was chomping on a porg. So
it's not true.
So what I'm curious about in this is like there is one thing that universally defines people as evil throughout the show.
Money.
Or throughout any show. And Darth Vader did it in Episode 3, and the only other person that we've seen do it that's become like really big in pop culture is Voldemort, and that is when the
kids.
Huh?
You say it.
No. Go ahead. I think you got it.
Hurting kids.
Yeah,
hurting children.
They've gotta hurt kids. Right, like that is, I think, the threshold right now of like how evil is this guy? Well, he hurt a kid. Like unremorsefully.
Was the kid asking for it?
Unremorsefully. I don't know if Moses Ingram was asking for it whenever she was in the Jedi Temple, but like those are the kind of things that we almost have to see nowadays, because that is sort of the threshold of like, no, I recognize that as evil, right? Where do you see? Not just like Lord of the Rings, but where do you see pop culture in general whenever it comes to the good and evil stuff, right? Where do you see that maybe they're deviating from having clear lines of good and evil that you can follow? Or are there areas right now where we're getting it right?
I mean, as for a deviation, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind that's huge is the Loki TV show.
Okay.
I mean, literally, it's an entire TV show based around a villain turning good in the end. And I absolutely love the show, and I think they handled the story well. But I'm sure there are other instances. I think they sort of kind of did that with Zemo, and then with this whole Thunderbolts movie that they announced. That's basically just a team of villains, and you got Suicide Squad and stuff like that, where they take traditionally villain characters and turn them into more like anti-heroes. So they're not quite good, but they're not evil,
Right.
So there is kind of a rising trend with that. And this is a really, really weird example and kind of dumb, but I've been noticing this in media. So I kind of look out for it more with new content. And just the other night, Dad, Nate, and I, we decided, let's go watch the new Super Pets movie because it's DC. And
why would you watch that movie?
It's DC, and we were behind, so we're like, we'll give it a shot. And honestly, quick review: we haven't talked about it on the podcast because we haven't recorded.
Ooh,
we went into it with
spoiler alert.
I know, scoop the teaser here.
Yeah.
But
this is going to be posted like way after this episode, though. Yeah,
but we went into it with medium expectations, and it actually blew past our expectations. It was a lot of fun,
even though it had The Rock in it.
It did have The Rock as Crypto,
right? But like he was not bad. That's what you're trying to. You were trying to tell me that this is the first movie that was. You know what?
Was Kevin Hart in it?
Kevin Hart is in it, right?
Kevin Hart is in it.
Okay, that is my my contention. That
what is he in it?
That The
Something
Rock.
Small.
He's Ace the Bat Hound.
Yeah, that The Rock has never done anything good without Kevin Hart.
That's a fair point.
Thank you.
actually. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Kevin
my-
Hart's in
my
it.
point
Okay, it can be good.
In talking about this is I was going into it. I'm like, all right, it's a kids movie.
Yeah.
There's a bad guy. The bad guy's going to turn good in the end because that's just how they do it with kids movies nowadays, right?
Right.
And they actually, spoiler, sort of, sorry, but
No, it's fine. We're not gonna see
They
it.
actually don't do that with the villain in this movie. The villain stays bad in the end, and I was genuinely surprised and like gratefully so with that fact, because it's such a trend nowadays to have a redemption arc for the villain, and sometimes it's just good to have the villain be that bad, and they don't even really give much of an explanation for the villain in the movie, like why the villain's bad. They're just bad. And I'm okay with that. It's just bad for badness sake, and he doesn't turn good. And so while there is a tendency, especially in Marvel and newer things, to humanize the villains and make them relatable,
Right.
it is nice to see a trend in certain areas where they don't do that. And I hope that they do that with this new series, because Sauron is one of the most iconic villains in literature, history, film history, you name it. And them turning him into a relatable character, like you said, kind of takes away his teeth. Like if you went back in to pre Phantom Menace times and showed us Palpatine's traumatizing like childhood where his dog died or something and he decided to go evil, well, that kind of taints the entirety of Star Wars, because when we see him in episodes 1 through 9, he's bad and he stays bad. Well, now how he comes back and stuff is another story, is a different question. But he's still evil every time we see him, and all he wants is just to rule the galaxy because he's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's the worst.
Yeah. So I think I like the point you bring up, that it would take away his teeth if they did that.
But if they kept the mouth of Sauron, then he would have nothing but teeth. Which is, are you familiar with the mouth of Sauron?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the creepiest smile.
That
dude is messed up.
My wife made it all the way through the Lord of the Rings series, and she was like, all right, you know what, we had some troubles getting through Fellowship because she hadn't read any of the books. And when you start off with the extended version of Fellowship, there's a lot of minutia to get through. And so
you have to get the story.
We're
and
like,
you want more.
Yeah, we're like 3 hours into this, and she's like, "Why are they getting brooches?"
Yeah, you threw like the Encyclopedia Britannica at her.
Yeah, well, you know
like
what? Hey,
everything.
Yeah, jump off the deep end. So we get through that, which was a trudge, right? Get through the two towers, everything's good. The mouth of Sauron comes on, and she's like, "Hey, I think I'm out." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I don't like this at all." Like everything up to here has been fine. That I don't like. She's like, "Was that in? Did they put that in the theaters?" I was like, "No."
I don't think that was in the Fellowship. That was
No, it's Return of the King.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
So
get
she
all the
got
way. We get
all
all
the
the
way to
way
the end.
to that, and she's just like, "Yeah, I think I can't do this."
So she watched like 9 hours.
She was like, "No, yeah." She gets to the last hour of this, and she's like, "I don't know if I can watch this guy." And I was like, "Just hang on." He gets his head cut off, and she's like, "Oh, that's good. That's a relief."
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she like almost
no
made
one
it to
likes
the
that
end,
guy.
and then was
he
out.
looks cool.
Well, Sam, as you well know, we end all of our interviews with a segment that we call Controlled Rowdiness. Which is just a series of rapid-fire questions, which you can answer as at length or with as short an answer as you want. Expect nothing from us by way of reply or response after your answers. There are no right answers, but there are several wrong ones, so be careful not to step on any of those landmines. And to get us kicked off, Dan, I'm going to turn things over to you.
If you could turn any weapon that's not a sword into a light weapon, I'm hesitant to say lightsaber.
Yeah.
What would it be?
Axe.
Ooh, laser axe.
So awesome.
Awesome. So we've talked a lot about the lines between good and evil. Why is it, do you think, that all redheads are inherently evil?
They're not.
What? Name one.
Yeah, wrong. Name the...
Savannah, my girlfriend.
Oh, I didn't know she was redheaded.
she's
That's
redheaded?
such a... Wow.
How do you like dating someone without a soul?
What?
Nothing.
Yeah, red. There's an old...
Got the line in. And
yeah.
no
Well done. All right, Dan. What's next?
What's the name of this street that you grew up on? And,
Flowering Almond.
And your mother's maiden name? We may have to delete this if
Yeah.
he keeps
Okay.
answering.
So here we go. So
That didn't work.
Yeah.
I was trying
no,
to steal your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It was a good shot. You almost got me.
Yeah. There we. Well, it was a good series of questions.
It was one question, and then these questions are not good.
Yeah. these are not things that we're going to. What's the name of your first pet? Are you allergic to Mary Kay products like I am?
No,
All
I
right,
don't
that's
think
good.
so.
That's good to know.
I don't have much firsthand experience with it.
Okay,
but-
so there's some context here,
I
right?
Good question.
Okay.
Sam posts this very nice thing about this young redheaded lady that he's dating
And by the
about
way,
how and
She looks fantastic.
Yep.
So congratulations.
She does.
yeah, and
looks
she
awesome.
seems like a very sweet girl.
Yes.
So
She is.
he posts.
All jokes about redheads not having a soul was for you about her.
Yeah,
But
or my
we
sister-in-law.
don't think that.
We might not think that about Savannah.
We do.
Autumn.
Yes, Savannah's-
Autumn's on notice.
Plus, Savannah has like a nice blonde addition. It's not.
It
full
goes
red.
back and forth,
It's not
yeah.
full evil.
It goes back and forth. Like you're telling us, but is she using Revlon products to dye her hair now? So no. So there's. He posts this thing about her doing just stellar in Mary Kay.
Yeah.
Right. She hits this giant goal. I deleted a post like 3 times that I was going to comment on. When I was in high school, I dated a girl whose mom was a Mary Kay saleswoman, and she had the pink Cadillac and the whole thing, right? It's not until about 3 months into us dating that I realized that I'm allergic to Mary Kay. And the other thing that I realize is that I apparently I always go left because I only broke out on the left side, on the left side of my face. I was trying to figure out why is my acne so bad on the left side, and I noticed it one night. I was like, "Oh, that's it." And she's looking at me. She goes, "What?" And I was like, "I always go left. This is why I'm only breaking out." Sure enough, I was allergic to her makeup. So glad to know that you aren't. Congratulations.
Okay.
All good so far.
Samuel the Hutt.
Yes, sir.
Boom.
You are trapped on an island. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have a really bad tooth, but you don't have a dentist or any tools to pull it out.
Okay.
What do you do?
Suffer, because I hate that scene in Castaway. That's like the one scene I remember from that movie, and it still traumatizes me with the
blade
with the
from
ice skate or
ice
whatever.
skate, yeah.
Oh, I can't.
He really lucked
I can't
out
do
with
it.
Yeah, he
with
did.
finding a whole
what
bunch
a
of-
magical shipment that rolled up on that island.
Right. Oh,
I got a bunch of solar panels.
I don't know. I think I just hit my head on the on a like palm tree a few times until I'm just out cold
So-
and just forget about it.
You're a rocket scientist, right? Or you're
Not yet.
studying to be a rocket scientist?
Attempting to.
What things are rocket science? Thank you.
I mean, thermodynamics, aerodynamics, spacecraft designs in class. I'm gonna have to probably take at one point. Just material science, calculus.
So
differential
outside
equations,
of
stuff
that,
like
would you say everything else is not rocket science?
No, I mean I think there's a little bit of everything that applies to rocket science, but those are
it's
just
all
the things
rocket
that.
science.
But you know what rocket
come to
science rocket science isn't? It's not brain surgery.
That is pretty good.
It's rocket surgery.
It is rocket surgery. It is rocket surgery. Dan, you got something else?
If you had your identity stolen, what company would you go with to go after the person that did it? I'm wondering if I want to keep doing this or not.
Gonna be honest, I don't even know of any companies that
great.
would do that. I don't know, maybe hire a bounty hunter or something just to keep it interesting.
Yeah, you could hire Boba Fett, and then for 2 episodes, the
Exactly.
Mandalorian could do it.
Exactly. See? And then it's not like a big old company. You just pay the one dude. There's no
Right.
middleman, and it's more interesting because you can have them like bring you the person who did it, and then it's all up to you as to how you handle it. So.
Okay, fine. I won't steal your identity.
Have you ever
cool.
have you ever gone to the aeronautical or the space museum down in Houston? Have you guys ever been to the NASA place?
No, I haven't.
When are you
Not
gonna
yet.
come?
Good. Don't go.
When are you gonna come hang out with us so we can take you to NASA?
I don't know. It sounds fun. I want to do it. I flew through Houston and had a huge layover
On
at
your
one point.
rocket?
I should have stopped by. But no, that sounds fun. I've only been to like the Air and Space Museum in DC.
Nice.
So
Does Elon Musk give the diplomas to all rocket scientists?
I wish that would be cool, but
Would
I
be
don't
cool.
think so.
Do you think? Does you think that we will see Elon Musk manufacture an Iron Man-esque suit in our lifetime?
I hope so, because if anyone's gonna do it, it's that guy. He's about the closest thing we got to a real life Tony Stark.
I think so too.
He just needs to get on it.
Isn't Iron Man like your guy too?
Yes.
I feel like
he's
he
your guy?
has it right now, and he's holding off on us. He's holding out.
You think Elon Musk is
Probably.
holding out on us?
See,
Yeah, I
what
think
we
he's
need
got
With his
is a
Iron Man
villain.
suit?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need a
We
villain.
need Jeff Bezos to like make one of those Lex Luthor suits you see him use in the comics, because he's
Yeah.
bald. He's already got half the look going.
Yeah, I mean,
You got-
his
you
head's
got
almost
one
big enough to be
billionaire.
that bad guy from the Hulk.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So you
All
get
bad
him
guys
to be
in
the
suits don't
supervillain,
have
and
hair.
you got
Yeah.
Elon Musk, and you got your whole story.
Sinestro
So now-
doesn't have hair.
So-
I think and full circle,
yeah,
Slim Saruman.
yeah, Slim,
Cut
not
his hair off.
Sauron.
Slim Sauron.
Yeah,
Cut his hair. Look, it was going to be fine until you corrected me. No one else would have known.
people who care about the LOTRCU would.
Well, this has been a great
you were saying it
episode.
was flowing off your tongue, and then you.
It wasn't. Yeah, no, I gave myself a brain
Slim
break, and now all of a sudden I'm like,
Saruman.
Slim.
Hello, see you. This is a good episode.
We did so well until the end, where we just our age is starting to show. We're on here with this young pup who's studying rocket science, and we get all the way to the end of the episode, and we fart and fall
And
down.
he's got a beautiful girlfriend. We're like, she's evil.
Yep.
I'm allergic to her makeup. You're not gonna. You haven't built a rocket yet, huh?
Yeah. No. So, how's the internship going?
Good, really busy. They got
You-
me doing all sorts of stuff with
Like
it.
fetching
but I'm
coffee, or
loving
you
it.
getting to do like real work?
Oh, they basically put me to work on day one. They're like, start
Wow.
training because we
That's
need your help.
awesome.
So
Have you gone
I've
to-
not done a coffee run yet. Actually, it's all been.
Have you
like,
been in a
actually
wind
helping me
tunnel?
think.
Have you had to run from lasers?
No, it's not that cool. I only like work on the paneling and stuff. So it's.
But you
not
have
as
gotten to
cool.
like legit work on the paneling for some of this stuff.
Sort. I do like. I like help out with the quality checks and stuff for the 3D models and all that. I like look at it and make sure everything's in the right spot before they send it off to the assembly line. That's like literally in our
That's
backyard.
way cool.
You have such a great life already.
Oh my gosh! You know what? He's
you know
a
what?
jerk.
Your future is so bright.
What a
What a
how
jerk.
dare you? How dare you
Sorry.
have so much
I
going
didn't
for you at
mean,
your age? You know what? You're handsome and you've got a great podcast and you build rockets. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I'm just really blessed. That's what it is. This is not my own doing by any means. This comes from the man upstairs. This is not me.
I think we
by-
should-
at all. Like
I think
Who
we should.
lives upstairs?
We need to end our episode with him apologizing again.
I'm
Just him
sorry.
telling us, like, I'm sorry, I'm so great. Like, it's so hard to be just always dating beautiful women
You know,
and being
I
a
hope
rocket
that
scientist.
no one genuinely does listen to you guys.
Sam,
all I
thanks
got.
so much for coming on the show. Hopefully, we'll
Well,
have you
thanks
on
for
whenever
having
we
me on.
start looking at some of the actual Lord of the Rings show whenever it comes out.
Well,
Tell
is there anything you want to tell us?
Not off the top of my head. No.
you're not going to tell us "May the Force be with us."
Oh, is that what y'all were alluding to?
Nope, that's not what we were alluding to at all.
I had,
Okay, well,
I
we
really,
can like edit this and then make it look like that, and then
Listen,
Is there anything you want
us
to?
editing this sounds
is-
like a lot of effort for somebody else.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, Samuel, is there anything that you'd like to tell us?
Anything else you boys
Yes,
would like
may
to
the
say?
force be with you.
May the Force be with you always.
Always.
Hey, tell our audience where it is that they can find you. For those of us who don't know about the greatness of Tatooine Sons.
Yeah, we are on all the podcast catchers: Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you can find it. Just at Tatooine Sons, SONS. You can follow us on Twitter at the same handle, and you can find us at Facebook. And we got a Facebook discussion group where we like share all the memes and random news articles and stuff, and you can just have fun with the community. But yeah, it's all Tatooine Sons, SONS, and we got a website too at the same thing. So
Well, Samuel, you are one of the coolest guys that I know.
thank you.
Yeah.
Sam
Samuel
the
the Hutt.
freaking Hutt. Sam's a great guest as always. Big thanks to the guys from Tatooine Sons for always being just super available for anything we want to talk about. New Lord of the Rings series coming out September 5th. I think he kind of covered all the bases for it. I appreciate what a thoughtful young man
He's
he
so
is.
great.
I am hoping if we have a kid,
Yeah.
he will be like in the vein of the two Jesse boys.
Yeah.
They're like he'll if we have a kid, if we have a son, that'll kind of be in that vein. Like he'll be able to think things through. He'll be responsible. He'll be respectful.
Are you saying that girls don't do that?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that I wouldn't want my daughter to be in the necessarily follow in those footsteps, because those are two very strapping young men.
The path forward that he took with most of the answers, or most of the answers he gave, were very thoughtful, and it's the thing that I think we both liked about Tatooine Sons. When
that was one of the things.
Listening, is like David had talked about. I don't remember what happened. Gina Carano, getting kicked out of Star Wars, getting let go.
Yeah,
everyone was
that's kind of what drew us to that show.
Everyone was rampantly going and giving their opinions, and he had said, "Hey, as an example to the boys, to my two sons, I'd like to wait a little bit. Let's find out what actually happened and what happens after, and before we give an opinion, which is not the way the world works."
And they have both been very thoughtful, and I cannot tell you, from a perspective, if you come on a show as a guest, it's always awkward because you're entering into somebody else's medium and dynamic, right? And especially if, like with Sam, we've got this kind of tertiary relationship with him. Like we've had David on a few times, we've had Nate on a few times. Sam is the one that we've had on the least, right? And so for him to just be able to roll with the punches with a show that's as manic as ours, and to be very
we make fun of a lot.
Diplomatic, dude. The kid's awesome. Yeah, I say the kid. He's an awesome young man. Really appreciate the insight on the
young rocket scientist.
On the Lord of the Rings stuff. And as always, make sure that you go check out Tatooine Sons. Links to all that stuff is going to be in the show notes. And for the Reverend and the Reprobate, you guys have good, get give. We'll see you next week.
This is Samuel Hutt with the Tatooine Sons podcast, and this is why you should never listen to the Reverend and the Reprobate podcast.